In the summer of 1969, a 6-year-old boy vanished in one of America's most visited national parks on a clear afternoon surrounded by family with searchers nearby. No screams, no blood, no trace. To this day, not a single confirmed clue explains what happened. How could someone disappear without a trace in blonde daylight? The Great Smoky Mountains stretch endlessly, dense forests swallowing sound, limestone caves hidden behind brush, sudden drops masked by moss and shadow. Maps show trails that twist and overlap, ridgelines that block radios, valleys where footprints vanish in minutes. Investigators would later study the terrain, the weather, the strange gaps in witness accounts. They would search ravines and streams, scan the tree line, follow rumors of sightings that led nowhere. Dogs lost the scent. Helicopters circled above a sea of green. The mountains remained silent. In a place where millions pass through every year, something or someone simply erased a child from the landscape. And the question still lingers: what does it mean when a place gives nothing back? My name is Horace, and you're watching Horace Investigates. Today, we're diving into one of the creepiest missing person cases in the Great Smoky Mountains. Stay with me until the end, because as the search unfolds, the details grow darker, the coincidences stranger, and the answers more distant. What happened to Dennis Martin may never be known. But once you step into these woods, you'll understand why some disappearances don't fade, they wait. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is often described as peaceful, even inviting. But beneath the mist and towering trees lies one of the most complex wilderness landscapes in North America. Spanning rugged mountains, deep ravines, and thousands of acres of unbroken forest, the park is filled with narrow trails, sudden drop-offs, and limestone caves that can open without warning beneath your feet. Fog can roll in within minutes, sound doesn't travel far, and once you step off the path, direction becomes a fragile concept. In the late 1960s, this terrain was even more unforgiving. Fewer marked trails, limited communication, vast areas untouched by modern search infrastructure. Locals knew the mountains demanded respect, but visitors often underestimated them. People went missing here before Dennis Martin, and some were never found. Hikers vanished after short walks. Hunters failed to return from familiar routes. Children strayed only a few steps and were swallowed by the forest. What makes these disappearances unsettling is not just their frequency, but their similarities. Clear weather, daylight hours, experienced adults, or closely watched children. And then, nothing. No footprints beyond a certain point, no belongings, no clear explanation. The Smokies are home to dense undergrowth that erases tracks within hours, fast-moving streams that carry evidence miles away, and caves deep enough to hide sound, scent, and bodies indefinitely. Searchers often describe a strange silence in certain areas, places where radios fail, compasses behave oddly, and the forest seems to close in. By the time Dennis Martin arrived here with his family, the mountains already carried a quiet reputation, not for danger that announces itself, but for danger that waits. And when someone disappears in these woods, the landscape doesn't resist, it absorbs, leaving behind only questions, unease, and the chilling realization that some places don't need to hide their secrets, they simply keep them. Dennis Lloyd Martin was 6 years old, small for his age, bright-eyed, energetic, and curious in the way only children are. He loved exploring, loved games, loved the simple thrill of hiding and surprising the people he trusted most. On June 14, 1969, Dennis was hiking with his family near Spence Field in the Great Smoky Mountains. It was Father's Day weekend. The weather was clear. Visibility was good. Nothing about that afternoon suggested danger. At one point, Dennis and his brother decided to play a harmless game. They hid behind trees and jumped out to scare the adults. Laughing, they split up for just a moment. Dennis ran into the trees while his brother went another way. Seconds passed, then a full minute. When Dennis didn't return, his father called out his name. There was no response. They searched nearby, but found nothing. Within minutes, concern turned into fear. Dennis had vanished from an open area in bright daylight. There were no screams, no sounds of struggle, no movement in the brush. One moment, a 6-year-old was running through the forest. The next, he was gone. Park rangers were alerted almost immediately. Search efforts expanded fast. Hundreds of people flooded the area, trained rescuers, local volunteers, and even Green Berets experienced in wilderness survival. Tracking dogs were brought in. Helicopters scanned from above. Searchers combed ravines, streams, and dense forest by hand. Yet the terrain resisted every attempt. The dogs picked up Dennis's scent, then lost it suddenly on a rocky trail, as if he had simply ceased to exist. As hours turned into days, strange details began to surface. A sudden thunderstorm rolled through shortly after Dennis disappeared, washing away possible footprints. One witness claimed to hear a scream, but couldn't tell where it came from. Another said they saw something moving through the woods, but could never clearly explain what it was. Searchers found nothing that belonged to Dennis. No shoe, no clothing, no sign of a struggle. Theories multiplied. Had he fallen into a hidden cave, been swept away by a fast-moving stream, taken by an animal without leaving signs? Or had something else happened, something no one wanted to say out loud? Despite one of the largest search operations the Great Smoky Mountains had ever seen, the forest gave nothing back. Days passed, then weeks. Hope slowly faded. Eventually, the search was scaled down. Dennis Martin was never found. The search itself became historic. Within hours of his disappearance, park rangers were joined by law enforcement, experienced volunteers, and elite military units. Hundreds of men formed search lines across steep ridges and dark ravines. Every possible path was checked. Dogs tracked scent again and again. Helicopters hovered overhead. But almost immediately, investigators faced something deeply unsettling. There was nothing to follow. No clear footprints, no disturbed ground. The tracking dogs lost Dennis's scent near a rocky trail, as if he had vanished into thin air. One ranger later said it felt like the boy had simply ceased to exist. Dennis's father, searching alongside professionals, reportedly said he could not understand how his son could disappear so completely in such a short time. As days passed, darker possibilities were considered. An accident seemed logical, yet no evidence supported it. An animal attack was discussed, but there were no signs of blood or drag marks. Predators rarely leave nothing behind. Then came the most disturbing theory: abduction. A witness reported seeing a rough-looking man carrying something over his shoulder around the time Dennis disappeared. The description was vague, the timing uncertain. No suspect was ever identified. The lead quietly vanished. Searchers also reported strange experiences. Radios failed in certain areas. Some described an unnatural stillness in parts of the forest, places where sound felt swallowed. Despite massive effort and expertise, every lead collapsed. After weeks of searching, the operation was officially called off. The mountains gave no answers. Dennis Martin remained missing, never recovered. In a place surrounded by people, under a clear sky, with help close by, a child vanished as if the forest itself had closed around him. And the most unsettling part isn't what we know, it's what we don't. Because if a child can disappear this completely, this quickly, what does that say about the places we believe are safe? And that uncertainty still lingers. Was it a tragic accident hidden by unforgiving terrain, a rare and silent animal encounter, a human presence that vanished as quickly as it appeared, or something about the Smokies themselves, a landscape capable of erasing people without explanation. The investigation ended on paper, but in the forest, it never really did, because every unanswered question still echoes through those trees, waiting. Dennis Martin's disappearance is not an isolated story. Across the Great Smoky Mountains and other national parks like it, people have vanished under disturbingly similar circumstances. Children, experienced hikers, hunters, and solo walkers. Many disappear on clear days, during short hikes, in areas close to trails or camps. They are often last seen by family or friends, and then, abruptly, they're gone. In several cases, search teams report the same patterns. Dogs lose scent suddenly, footprints stop without explanation, personal items, when found, appear strangely placed, untorn, clean, almost staged. In a few searches, severe weather arrives shortly after a disappearance, washing away evidence within hours. In others, searchers describe areas of unnatural silence, where the forest feels closed, heavy, watchful. Demographics raise uncomfortable questions. Children under 10, elderly hikers, individuals separated for only minutes. These are not reckless adventurers pushing deep into danger. They vanish from places where rescue should be possible. Then there are the coincidences, reports of sudden fog, compasses spinning or failing, radios cutting out in specific zones, caves and sinkholes mapped decades later, some directly beneath trails where people were last seen. In a few cases, remains are discovered years later in areas already searched multiple times, as if the land returned them only when it chose. The Smokies are ancient, older than the trees that cover them. Their terrain shifts, hides, collapses. Streams change course. What disappears doesn't always stay gone, but when it does, it leaves behind a question far more unsettling than any answer. If Dennis Martin vanished because of nature, then nature did it quietly, efficiently, and without witnesses. And if his case fits a pattern, then the most disturbing thought isn't what happened to him, it's how often it happens and how easily it could happen again. Dennis Martin disappeared in the middle of a sunny afternoon, surrounded by family, in one of the most visited national parks in America. There were no warning signs, no sounds, no trail to follow. An enormous search effort uncovered nothing. No evidence of an accident, no proof of an animal attack, no confirmation of human involvement. Only silence and a landscape that refused to explain itself. What remains are fragments: a child who stepped away for seconds, a scent that vanished on stone, storms that arrived at the worst possible moment, witnesses who saw something but not enough, and a wilderness capable of erasing all certainty. To this day, Dennis Martin remains missing, leaving more questions than answers. If this story unsettles you, it should, because it challenges the idea that danger announces itself and reminds us how thin the line is between safety and disappearance. If you have your own theories about what happened to Dennis Martin, share them in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us. Some mysteries don't fade. They wait.